Hey everybody, welcome to Global CRE TV, also known as GCRE TV. Today we're going to be speaking about technology in the commercial real estate world and its influence that it's having right now. Got two speakers today, Hadar Goldman from Goldman Investments, who is a visionary and a leader in the industry and also quite big in the tech world. We got Greg Dickerson, who's our mentor here at GCRE, who is an industry veteran in the tech world now with prop tech and also fintech and also in commercial real estate. So guys, I would like to welcome you all to our show today, Mr. Hadar and Mr. Greg Dickerson. The show is yours today. Really, we want to talk about a little bit about what Goldman Investments is about and the technology that he is bringing forth to the industry a little bit today. So guys, if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Mr. Goldman first, what it is you do, who you are, and then we can carry on from there with Greg as well.
Hi. So, first of all, good day. My name is Hadar, and I'm the founder of Goldman Investments. And what we do, we buy and multifamily assets in America, and we actually value add them via technology. So we use our own technology that had been developed by ourselves for the past almost 4 years. I've been in the real estate industry for the past 15 years. I'm a marketing guy as well as a tech entrepreneur. That's in a nutshell. Circa is a little bit shy of $1 billion worth of assets in America, all of them multifamily in different states. Started with our headquarters, so to speak, are in Texas, Houston, Texas, Chicago, Illinois, and now we're expanding to the rest of the Sun Belt. That's about that.
Awesome. Well, I've been on the show before. People may know me, Greg Dickerson, serial entrepreneur, real estate developer, also a coach and mentor, as Gavin mentioned. I've been in the business since 1997. Started as a little remodeling handyman contractor, built that into a $30 million company, exited that. That was my first exit, and used all of the profits along the way to invest and develop real estate, and just started scaling up from there. So I've done $250 million with my own cash, my own real estate deals. I've done $400 or $500 million with other investors, and the people that I'm involved with now on the real estate front doing multifamily development, things like that. We have about $1 billion of assets under management collectively, and probably $400 or $500 million deals in process. And then I'm also involved in a couple of different enterprises right now, a couple of tech companies, prop tech, fintech, things like that. So I still do some equity capital as well as real estate development, and very interesting times in the world right now.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, I mean, I think that's one of the major sort of hits on the good way of this era is actually the multifamily. Multifamily is showing. I'm not talking about the $7,000-8,000 per month type of rentals. I'm talking about, let's call it between average to affordable, that are showing tremendous strength. I mean, we are currently across the board with the 97.8% of occupancy, and our collections are, I think that maybe 3% less than what's needed to be collected, which is quite good.
That's phenomenal right now. So you have been in the business how long?
15 years.
15 years. So you went through 2008 and 9.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So very different time now. I know a lot of people, I've been on a lot of interviews, a lot of podcasts lately, and there's a number of people calling for a major crash in the housing market. Of course, they're mostly referring to single family homes, but a lot of them, Ken McElroy is one. He has, 15,000 units, and he is thinking that there's going to be a wave of evictions in the multifamily space. And he's a big multifamily owner, but he's expecting some pain in the multifamily sector here in the near term. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with that. I agree with that. It's going to be once the government plans are going to be off, and once, but then people will go back to the good end of it, that people will go back to work. Hopefully the COVID-19 will have a vaccine towards it. As per evictions, I hear you, but then I spoke to many lenders. They're going to introduce for landlords and for owners, those who are going to suffer from it, they're going to introduce for them a few plans in order to some sort of forbearances, in order to ease up the situation. As per single families, I wanted to say something, please. I would like to hear your opinion about it. I mean, the COVID-19 showed and gave, perhaps alongside with the ability of technologies, the sort of lifting up the suburbia. As in, and I'm talking about single families on the rental side, not on the owner-occupied. Talking about the rental side of it. I think that instead of paying $3,000 in Brooklyn per month, I'm talking about New York, for example, people don't have to live there anymore. They can commute via train once a week. The rest they can, operate from their homes. Now, if that's the situation, why not a nice single family in Connecticut or in somewhere in the sticks, in the suburbs, and, for $1,500 or $2,000, you get heaven with some trees, some birds, some sky, a piece of sky. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that is a big trend. So the single family for rent space has been on the upswing for the last 10 years, but more particularly the last 4 or 5 years. And we're seeing a lot of public companies. Now, this came out of the 2008-9 crisis where a lot of the equity funds like Blackstone came in and bought up a bunch of non-performing notes and assets, and then they turned around and put those into a single family pool. And I'm talking, thousands to tens of thousands of homes at a time that they were buying from the banks. That's a whole nother story. But what we're seeing now is there's a lot of investment funds that have come up, like Invitation Homes, Ovation Homes, and these are equity and hedge funds that are investing in single family. I think it's Invitation recently that just allocated $1 billion for new acquisitions of single family for rent homes. Now, these are in certain markets throughout the U.S., and then you have, I believe it's Invitation, that is developing for rent communities. So entire subdivisions developed from the ground up specifically for rent. So that is a big trend. And what's really interesting about that and to watch is how big of a trend that's going to become, because in the United States, we've always been, at least in my lifetime, I'm only 53, pro home ownership. So there's been a big push from the government side for home ownership. And a lot of people nowadays are more on the renter mindset. There's a big movement to the renter mindset so that you don't have the taxes, insurance, maintenance, things like that. And you have the flexibility to kind of pick up and move whenever you want. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the single family market is impacted in that for rent product. Now, there's always going to be a number of people that are going to want to own. So I don't know what percentage that gets to, but right now in the United States, I think it's probably 35% of all the households are rented. That's multifamily and single family. I don't know what percentage of the single family market alone is rental. Probably 10%.
I have the numbers.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting what you're saying. I mean, you've touched so many different issues. I don't know. I don't know what to tackle first. No, seriously. But okay. So yeah, you're absolutely right. But the main driver for the rental, we call it generation rent.
Mm-hmm.
The driver is mainly the mobility. What's the point? I'm 29 years of age. Let's say I've got a terrific job with Google. Now, after 1 year, I consider myself as an old employee. I already want some options in the company. And if I work for 2 years, I want to be the CEO. That goes for all sectors. So, truth of the matter, that here are the numbers. The average working period of a millennial, what we call millennial, would be 18 to 34, is 1.5 years at one place. Now, the companies have become clever. So what they do, so if you work for Shell in Houston, Texas, now in order for you to regain fresh energy and to reinvent yourself because you feel already tired after 1.5 years, what they do, they would relocate you to Dallas, Texas, or God forbid, Chicago, Illinois. So now, what's the point for you to go and search for the right home of yours, right? To go and search for the right mortgage. Then you do some renovations in order to have your brilliant, perfect little home. And then after 1.5 years, you're moving to another city. So now you've got to list this one up and to rent this one out and to list. So all of this mobility that perhaps the COVID-19 has stopped a little bit, all of this mobility makes, you know something, we're going to postpone the first home when we settle down. When we are going to be 50 years of age. Having said that, it doesn't mean that we want that our homes, while being rented, we want them to be brilliant. And brilliant means, first of all, it's not about location anymore. It's about service. So we want everything to be done by a push of a button over our smartphones. This is how we operate. This is where our lives are. And guess what? The multifamily companies, they're so old and dated that, you know, they don't, not that they don't have the technology, they don't have the DNA to understand that the tenant is actually a consumer. They still call it units as opposed to homes. So all of this collision between a whole generation and the landlords, it's a little bit like a battle zone. That's why 60% of all renters in America move every year to different apartments. Meaning that more than half of your inventory is on the shelf constantly. Now about some numbers relating to what you were saying quite rightly. So currently in America, there are 48 million renting units, homes, apartments, residential, single families, multifamilies, the lot. 21 to 22 million rental units are single families. And when I say single, I include in these numbers 2 to 4 residential as well, okay? All those duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, okay? Multifamily would be the rest, meaning 25, 24, 26, it depends who you ask at what day, 25 million multifamily units.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know what percentage of that single family is detached, single family detached homes, just individual houses versus duplex, triplex, quads. That would be an interesting number to look at and look at the trend.
Good question. I'm afraid I don't have the answer.
Yeah,
but it's a good task for me to I'll look it up.
And what's interesting about what you said is, you know, we're seeing the millennial move to rent. We're also seeing it in the older population. There's a lot of people that right now the housing market has peaked in the United States. You're in Israel. You're in Israel, right?
Currently, yeah.
Okay. So, we're seeing a peak. Now, could housing go up, house prices go up a little bit? Yeah, I don't think they're going to double, but maybe there's a little bit more upside over the next year. But right now, you're probably about as at the peak as you're going to get because of, demand, inventory, things like that. There was already a move to the rental model from 2008 and 9. So a lot of people that were young growing up in that area were scarred during that time, and they don't want to own a home because they saw their parents get burned and they had to move and they lost their home. So a lot of young millennials went through that as teenagers. Now that they're adults, they're thinking, man, why should I own a house? You're not going to build equity if you're buying at retail value right now. If you're buying a finished home, brand new or market retail value, there's really no upside. You're going to pay down principal. So it's almost like a savings account. Some of those tax incentives to own homes might go away. But there was already a move in that direction pre-COVID. COVID has put fuel on that fire and has really put a lot of momentum behind that move to renting, like you're saying, for a number of reasons. One, obviously the flexibility. Now, there's a lot of other industries. Military is one. People move all over all the time for the military. So makes little sense to own unless you're going to, own them and rent them out, which is what a lot of military do. They'll buy a house, they'll leave it, they'll rent it, and then they'll accumulate properties all over the country as they move around. And internationally, you have the restaurant industry was famous for moving people. If you were in management or restaurants, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you had to be relocatable. They've kind of changed a little bit of that now, but now that is still, you can move up the ranks faster if you're willing to relocate in a lot of companies. And then now we're seeing, especially in tech, where they're just eliminating headquarters, reducing office space, and they're realizing that they don't need to have everybody come to a corporate office, move to San Francisco or move to, Nashville and Austin, some of these, up and coming tech hubs, that the people can work anywhere in the world from anywhere in the world. So it's really interesting to see that movement and how that specifically is going to affect the single family detached home rental environment, because there are a lot of people that still want a house, single family detached. They still want a yard. They still want a neighborhood, but they don't want to own. So that's going to be a very interesting trend that'll be fun to watch. I don't think it's going to impact multifamily in a huge way because, again, I don't know what that percentage is, but it can't be more than 10% of the homes in this country are rented, if that much. And where can that go ultimately? It'll be hard to say, but there's always going to be a appetite for apartments. There's always going to be a need for apartments for people that are more transitional than others that, might want to stay in a house a little bit longer.
That's very true. The challenge with single family rentals, if it's not huge communities, it's really hard. It's a big challenge to manage them. Mm-hmm. Because single family, you've got one here, two there, another three there, so you can have 100 single family homes in 50 locations, where 100 units in multifamily, it's so easy to manage.
Yeah, it's very inefficient, difficult to scale unless you are, a fund that has hundreds of millions to be able to put the infrastructure in place and then go out and purchase at scale. And that's even getting more difficult. Hedge funds are having a hard time. Investment funds and these companies that own at scale are having a hard time buying because there just isn't enough inventory out there right now. So that's why they're moving to the development for rent communities. And that's the biggest trend in this country right now, or one of the bigger trends in this country right now for single family for rent. And
the money is cheap.
Yeah. So let's talk about your solution. You mentioned a couple of key words there that piqued my interest in terms of the tenants as consumers and the technology to embrace that movement.
So, the challenge, I've learned it on my own skin, and the stuff that things that we saw, every owner of multifamily, seen and experienced the same things that I have and we have. The worst thing, the thing that really stood up for me, like a few years ago, was first of all the turnover percentage. Now, let's say that you have a great asset, and let's say it's 90% occupied, well run, well managed, all cool. When a tenant moves goes away, moves out. So first of all, you don't get paid for two weeks of no rent. I'm talking about mid-America, $1 to $1.50 per square foot per month. I'm talking about $1,000, $1,500 per month. Not talking something crazy. I'm talking average America. So 2 weeks, no rent. Then you pay 4 weeks. It costs you to bring the next tenant, whether via broker, even if you use only digital, if it's apartment.com, or the Craigslist and whatever, Zillows, Trulias, it costs you 4 weeks. Doesn't matter if it's 2 weeks you pay to the broker and 2 weeks you pay to the advertiser. It doesn't matter. It costs you 4 weeks. Then you've got to do bits of mini cosmetics, some paint, some brush, some here and there touch-ups. It costs you, let's say, another $1,000, $1,500. So it's another 2-3 weeks, meaning that each each leave of a tenant, each move out, costing you between 8 to 10 weeks worth of rental. This is a disaster because it's all being taken from the NOI. So we went and we investigated the reasons. Alongside with McKinsey, we investigated 3 states, California, Florida, and Texas. 7,500 apartments, class A, B, C, D, privately owned, REITs, consortium, moms and pops, whatever. The conclusions were extremely harsh. So half of the people that move out, it's what we call exogenic reasons. Got married, got divorced, different workplace, he had to move other city, university, school districts, you name it. The rest, they move because they hate the place that they live. They hate the management that are being pushed by the landlords to enhance NOI and the inefficiency and the lack of technology. And if you want to report some sort of maintenance issue that happens only once a week, you must call the property manager or to walk to the leasing office, and then a lovely lady will show you in and you will sign 3 copies, and you are Mr. Smith from apartment 2D, and yes, your air conditioner is not working, and soon enough, after 3 days, he will come, and all of this inefficiency and stupidity, I'm sorry. Look, I can say it, we in the real estate industry, we are not the first adapters for technology, let's face it. We as a whole, as a guild, if you like. No offense, I'm not referring to you, but I'm referring to me and the whole of the real estate. So what we have created a one-stop shop mega platform. 4 pillars. First pillar, easy. Tenants. Every need by a push of a button. Maintenance issue, you want to pay, you want to book parking, you want to book the tennis court, whatever. A push of a button. Second pillar, simple as well, management platform. Heavy desktop. Yes, we do it also via iPads. They cater to all the tenants' needs, they cater to maintenance issue, they work in front of the landlord, in front of all vendors, etc. Now, third and fourth pillars, these are the interesting ones. Third pillar, we took all the vendors, electricians, AC, engineers, the lot. We put them in the cloud, and we have Uberized the process. A simple algorithm. If we cannot solve the problem on the property level, we throw it to the air as a bid. Only property location can authorize it. It goes to the air, at least 6 bidders. The algorithm will choose them by three points. how close they are to the property. I mean, we want them to come in 1 hour, not in 3 days. Houston, air condition, July, summer. I mean, we cannot wait 3 days for this to be solved, yeah. So algorithm, how close they are, the price point that they offer, and their rating from other clients. So the machine will pick them up, they will come, they will fix it. We know exactly the price, no gifts, no behind the table, no super commission, no bullshit. They will come, they will get their rate after the job from the management and from the tenant, satisfactory. That's it, simple. Uber does it, so why don't we? Fourth pillar, we canvass each property with 1 mile radius, and we enable all the moms and pops, which are the new victims, if you like, the Amazon victims, all neighborhoods, moms and pops, retailers and services, from the little pizza parlor to the cosmetics, to the hairdresser, to the local restaurants, bars, all the way to insurance agents, leasing cars in the area. We enable them to offer to our community, you know, sale promotions, some discounts. So this is our platform. It's called C² Community Services. And I want to tell you that we have reduced the 55% annual turnover to 46.5. This is a major change. But moreover, we have happy tenants. We have happy management people, local people on the ground. We are part of the community. I mean, you should see, it's so simple. Now it's simple. We've made so many mistakes while developing it. You can't, I mean, we did it in 3.5 years. Today, if I had to do it, it would have taken us 2 years and half the cost of, but that's life. But anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, a lot of owners in the residential and the commercial world, a lot of owners and property managers have always been focused on filling vacancies versus retention. A lot of them haven't put enough attention in the years on retention as they do on, like you said, boosting NOI and signing the next lease. So it's interesting, an interesting perspective to approach it from that standpoint of the tenant. Now, you're seeing some syndicators these days, obviously, in their business plan for the value add. That's a big part of it, enhancing the community, retaining your tenants and things like that, so that people want to live there and stand out from the competition. But it's been a long time coming, and it's more particularly lacking in the commercial space for office, retail. You know, that's an area where landlords have typically wanted to squeeze, and it hasn't been a very tenant-friendly environment. It's more about how much money can I get out of somebody with doing the least amount of work possible on the property. So it'd be interesting to apply that specifically to the commercial, office, and retail world moving forward, because that's a big space that's going to be going through a lot of change here in the next few years.
It looks to, I mean, you're so right. I mean, I will say this, what home, let's say it's a bit, it's a branded friendly, but the offices are like a cold bunch of commodities. And you're so right. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, today in the heavy valued that we are doing, for example, in Chicago currently, I mean, each apartment, we put, you know, we design and we implement a little working space, as well as throughout the building. To be honest with you, myself, I mean, I'm sure that it's going to be in 3-4 years, people will want to go and see people and meet people, and some working places, you know, I mean, I started my career in the advertising industry. I can't imagine to be in the creative department of a advertising agency and to work only via Zoom. You need the interaction. You need, you need the having a glass of wine together to think over stuff. And, you know, I cannot see how this industry is going to do it via, I mean, not everything could be done via Zoom, let's face it.
Yeah, there's
I mean,
a lot of synergy lost by not being in the office, but I think where the biggest impact is going to be felt is in the analyst sector in the financial world. A lot of the big investment firms, their analysts don't need to be in the office. They're just data geeks. In software companies, same thing. Your engineers, your data scientists, that type of thing. They don't have to be in a collaborative environment. That they can do their meetings and via Zoom, but they're plugged in, all day long. So it's kind of those vehicles, those jobs that I think are going to permanently affect the office landscape moving forward. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like and how permanent these remote working situations are, customer service, those types of things, phone answering. There's a lot of positions, but you're right. In a creative, collaborative environment where ideas are exchanged, Zoom doesn't get it done. It's very, very different, very difficult. And there's some solutions out there to create more of a constant virtual office environment where you feel like you have people around you.
Yeah.
But it's not the same, and that's not going to change. People will go back to that as soon as they can. And there's, especially in the real estate industry, there's real estate offices. Even though real estate happens out, people still like to have a real estate office for everybody to kind of collaborate. People like to go to the office, to have somewhere to get away from. But so let me ask you this before we wind up. I know I think Gavin had set aside 30 minutes or something. So why the United States? You're in Israel. You obviously can invest anywhere in the world. You've got a different perspective than a lot of us that are just here in our own little United States bubble. So why are you focusing all of your attention here from an investment standpoint?
Great question. So I've been doing development in Tel Aviv quite a lot, and quite successfully. We had a tremendous run for the past 15 years, like unbelievable. I'm talking about tripling the price per foot. We call it square meter here for development. However, at one point for me, that happened like 13, 14 years ago, I like cash flow. And you cannot invest in Israel in the renting industry, in the multifamily, because it's a condo market. And if you buy condos for rent, for lease, your annual, your buying mode would be based on 2.5%, perhaps 3% cap rate. Now, I like the multifamily market, and America, to be honest with you, I don't know if you're aware of it, is perhaps the only multifamily big market in the world. I mean, there isn't multifamily in the UK, in England. Now it's only the very beginning of this industry. It's condo market, or maybe you have a small house that was divided by 4 or 5 units. Germany is not multifamily market. Same goes for the Scandinavia and France. And the rest of the world is not really, for me, a friendly business place. So America is a great place as far as cash flow and multifamily category, as well as the size of the market. You don't feel the ceiling. I mean, it doesn't matter how many units you own and what's the size of the company, you're always a small company. And I like it. I like it a lot. And the scaling options are tremendous. Yes, it varies from time to time. It varies from one state to the other. Obviously, it's you cannot take the comfort of doing business places such in Texas and to think that the same goes for the state of New York, for example. And now, states are changing and situations are changing. But all in all, the scaling abilities are great in New York, in America. And look, let me show you from my perspective the great opportunity. 48 million rental apartments, and yet there isn't one brand in the country. Not one brand. One brand that people will say, you know something, I want to go and live there with this brand. You know, like with hotels, for example. People might say, look, I want to go to the Four Seasons, I want to go to the Ritz-Carlton, or I want to go to this and this boutique firm, whatever, to the W Hotel. These brands will occur and will happen, and I want to be there once it's there.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the property owners do not brand their company. It's the property. Each property has its own name, its own community. That's an interesting concept. Now, the hotel industry was headed in the branded residential direction with, I think, Marriott and Four Seasons had done some branded residences, but they were all condo. I don't think they were apartment.
Yes, condos.
And that was in, some of the bigger cities. So there was a trend towards that movement before they got annihilated with the COVID environment. Very, very interesting to see how the hotel industry and the movie theater industry, rebounds from this. But so that's an interesting perspective. I mentor a lot of multifamily owner operators, syndicators all over the country, different levels. Some have $1 billion portfolios, some $200-300 million, and working their way up. And they're facing very unique challenges right now in this COVID environment that are going to be with us moving forward. What are some of the biggest challenges you're seeing across your portfolio right now?
So this is none less than an earthquake in the industry, because we use comps, right? Comparisons. Now, I asked yesterday, we had a call inside the company, and I asked them, please show me a comparison that will back up this situation where Manhattan is in 35% vacancy and the south side of Chicago is in 2% vacancy. Please show me these comps. So these comps, all this, everybody's based upon comps, and comps basically show you the past. They don't show you the present, definitely not the future. I think that our personal challenge would be, so what we do is this. Like everybody, we have value add projects and cash flow projects. Okay, so now the value add projects, what we do is we buy, I would say, B- products in A locations. That would be our value add projects.
How many units do you target?
5,000 in the value added.
Well, I'm talking about per property. So you're, 200, 400, 500 units per property.
Sorry. So it depends. In Chicago, for example, let's take Chicago, for example, because of the heavy regulations in regarding to the major fire that happened there 120 years ago. So residential buildings are low, as opposed to high rises of the offices. So a building of 100 units considered to be a large building for residential in Chicago. So 100 unit building for value add, and our target was there to charge $3,000, $2,800 per month. I think that we've got to rethink it. As per our cash flow deals, in the other side of the city, there in our cash flow, in our stabilized asset, we go exactly the total opposite approach. We build or we buy or renovate, whatever, we buy a product in a B- location. So we are always best in class type of situation. The cash flow products are safer currently because I've got no worries there. It's $1,200, $1,500 per month. The occupancy, as I told you before, it's just a bit shy of 100. Great collections. So our challenge would be actually in the value-added properties, and there we are compensating this price with tons of amenities, but mainly we are creating environment where the tenant, or the resident rather, don't have to leave his home for nothing unless he chooses to. He's got a little park to walk his dogs. He's got a place to put his bikes. He's got a yoga center, a fitness center, a warm swimming pool. And guess what? He's got a rooftop with a bar and a great Wi-Fi. And in the winter, it's covered. So we give our residents there zero reason to go to office and the rest, I told you, he can order via push of a button, whether he chooses Amazon or he chooses our moms and pops in the neighborhood. But that's my greatest challenge would be the $2,500 per month product.
Mm-hmm. And so you have garden style as well as high rise.
Yes, the garden style mainly we have in the south, in Texas, and now we are going to approach it also in Arizona and Florida, all the Sun Belt. In Chicago and the rest of Illinois and the Midwest, we mainly own, well, not mainly, all of it, mid-rises, brownstones, yellowstones, like the New York City, if you like.
Yeah, very different operating environment than the suburban garden style.
Oh my God, yes. You know your multifamily.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I've been around the block.
Yes. It seems that you've been around the block both in the low garden style. Obviously let's take 200 apartments in low garden style. We are talking about 20 acres. And let's take these 200 apartments in high res or in mid res rise. It's what? It's half an acre, and it's a different, totally different game.
Yeah, whole different building operating systems, whole different tenant mix and environment and needs. It's really cool that
the lifestyle.
The lifestyle, yeah. It's cool that you have that understanding of the different product types, because a lot of people don't mix. They'll stay with just one thing, which is great. There's no right or wrong there. It's whatever you're built for. But very different operating systems and mindset that you need to go into those different types of products. And I see Gavin coming on. So one final thing, I understand you're a shark and you've got an entrepreneurial center for entrepreneurship that you're developing. That I found very fascinating. Can you talk about that a little bit before we go?
Sure, yes. So in this part of the ocean, I'm on the TV show, Shark Tank. So I'm one of the 5 sharks there.
So which one are you? Are you more of a Kevin? Are you more of a
Cuban?
Yeah, Kevin O'Leary or Mark Cuban, or which one would you align with?
Well, I think that Cuban is a little bit too harsh, too aggressive. I think that entrepreneurs and startups, they need guidance, but they also need some warmth. I get there isn't, well, there is, but the deal flow that I'm getting, it's like unbelievable. So what I do, usually my colleagues in the Shark Tank, if it's fintech, for example, I'm like a traffic warden, like a traffic light. If it's fintech, it goes to this person. If it's prop tech, I leave it for myself. If it's interesting, if it's, I just doing categorizing. The last thing I did, I bought technology as well as the largest solar farm in the central of Tel Aviv. And if you want me to share with you in one sentence, it's not my vision, it's Tesla's vision, I can only maybe quote. 1,000,000% I want that each property that we own in America or elsewhere, I want it to be 100% energy autonomous. If it's in the Sun Belt, I want the low garden style. So one of the advantages of the low garden style, as far as I'm concerned, is the ability to put solar panels in order to create the local energy, green ones. And guess what? You can produce more than you need, and then you can sell it to your neighbors or direct to the electricity company. Places like Chicago or other windy cities, we will have to use. We don't have the space to put wind turbines over, in the middle of Chicago. But I think that the batteries, the Tesla's batteries, could cater and to be like a one-stop solution for energy for a building of 24 to 48 units.
Yeah, the big high rises, you'd have to implement the curtain wall
Yes.
into the solar panel equation, and that will be. I think that's a technology that we're going to see very soon in mid and high rise buildings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Were you referring to the windows? Yeah. To the
Yeah, the windows and the building exterior components. So it's going to be more difficult to make a solar window that can capture capture the energy, but the trim component certainly can, because you've got limited, like you said, your footprint's limited, so your rooftop's limited, so you can't use solar panels, you can't use wind turbines, so you have to use the building envelope to capture the energy to then transmit to the batteries to create that surplus energy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has been interesting. I've learned a few things, and considering I live in Switzerland, the model that you guys are talking about never exists over here. Although there might be some possibilities to do something here eventually. It's one of the most secure markets in the world, and by government influence here kind of goes a long way. But I've learned a lot from you guys today. Thank you for being on the show. As always, Greg, it's a pleasure to speak with you and Mr.
Greg is like a Wikipedia for multifamily.
Right. Yes. Well, Greg is the guy that normally we speak to when we were looking for a mentor advisor for the business. We kind of searched far and wide, and I always joke and say when I first came across him, it was about 1 a.m. in the morning, and I got lost looking at all his YouTube stuff until about 5 in the morning. And he reached out. We had a conversation. Had a few stupid ideas, I would say, in the beginning, but this kind of sticks a little bit for now. But there's huge potential to this. So, Mr. Goldman, thanks for joining us on the show as well. We appreciate it. And whenever we would love to have you again on the show one day to talk about anything else that you would like.
It'd be a lot of fun, Hadar. I'd love to do it again and talk a little bit more entrepreneurship, a little bit more shop, and it's very enjoyable to meet you today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I hope you have a good time. Cheers.
Thank you.